Hello, Capricorn. Welcome to Soul Good. I'm Amber Marie, and this is your April 2023 Tarotscope. In the description box below, you can find all sorts of goodies to explore, including a timestamp if you would like to jump to the start of the reading. But before you do that, I would like to remind you that this is a collective reading, not a personal reading, so please use your discernment and take only what resonates with you and leave the rest. So, I also feel like I should be sharing with you that the reason why these readings are coming so much later in the month is because I feel like what is coming through here is going to be amplified or be, what is the word I'm looking for? The I feel like it's going to be more powerful, if you will, or more relevant after the solar eclipse and Mercury retrograde, or rather, like as those energies come in, right? I feel like this is when this information is going to be most relevant or be maybe impacting you the most. Okay, so please do keep that in mind. Mercury retrograde does last from April 21st through May 14th. So these energies may be impacting you during that period, and then as you move forward in your journey as well. Okay. I would like to also just say thank you so very much for joining me. I am so very grateful for your company and am very excited to be reading for you today. We are going to be using a spread that I created, which dropped into my field at the end of March. So I've been very eagerly waiting to share it with you. And we're going to be looking at what you can do to align with your highest timeline or Christ consciousness. What is helping you to evolve? What is limiting your soul's evolution? And also getting some advice, encouragement, or guidance for you from the angels. So, a couple of things I want to share as well, intuitively speaking. So first of all, as I was getting ready to come in, like I always lotion up my hands because it's what you're seeing, of course. And when I did that, the lotion actually fell into my hand in a U shape, which is not typically something I would pay attention to, but for whatever reason, I felt very drawn to that, which I feel could be one of a couple of things. I feel like either you could have a U as an initial, okay, for you, and that may be a sign for you that there's something definitely in this reading for you, or there's also kind of this message to turn the focus towards you. Okay, turning it inward towards you. So take that as it resonates if it does. I would also like to share that just a moment ago, I looked up and saw 222 or 222, and twos are about often choices, balance, partnerships, also duality. And here's the thing, as I was speaking or sharing the introduction, if you will, with you, I gnashed my teeth together a couple of times. And that's always indicative of the need for choices to be made, right? Like anything to do with the teeth is often, a sign for me of there needing to be choices. And here's the thing, for whatever reason, because gnashing my teeth together is always so uncomfortable for me. I mean, I know some people who can just, do it and it's no big deal. It doesn't bother them. But I am not one of those people. So that tells me that some of these choices that I feel maybe need to be made are ones that are quite uncomfortable, right? That they're ones that maybe you don't necessarily want to make, or, wish you didn't have to make, or something along those lines. But again, please only take what resonates with you and leave whatever doesn't behind. Okay? So let's jump in and see what we've got going on for you for this month. Oh, also, just because I feel these energies will be amplified or more relevant with the solar eclipse and Mercury retrograde, that does not mean that some of these things, or perhaps even all of them, haven't already been apparent in your reality. Okay, these could be things that you've already been experiencing, that you are already consciously aware of. I just feel that with the eclipse and retrograde energy, that it is going to be amplified or more in your face or more relevant for your journey. Okay. All right, so let's see here. Please, Father, Mother, Life, Universe, Spirits, Guides, Angels, our cosmic team, our ancestors, our higher selves, what can Capricorn do to align with their highest timeline and Christ consciousness, please? What can Capricorn do to align with their highest timeline? Okay, thank you. Wow. All right. Tell us, please, what's helping Capricorn to evolve this month and beyond? What is helping Capricorn to evolve? Okay, thank you. How would you like me to? Right. Okay, and what is limiting Capricorn's evolution, please? What is limiting? Oh, wow. Okay, let me just grab that. Okay. And can we please have some advice, encouragement, or guidance for Capricorn? Can we please? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you. Wow, lots of cards coming out here for you. So let me just set those there. All right, let's jump in. So what can you do, Capricorn, to align with your highest timeline and Christ consciousness? So we do have here first, I am present. Light body activation, accessing the divine within. Okay, so this may be something that maybe some of you don't, how would I say, maybe you're not incredibly open to spirituality or the idea of God or Christ. And I just want to be very clear. I am not speaking about God or Christ in a dogmatic religion sense of the words, okay? Or those meanings like that. That's not what I'm referring to. I just want to make that very clear, because I do not consider myself religious, though I do believe very, very firmly in God and Christ, okay? But these are not the dogmatic religion ideas of those two things, those two entities, okay? So here's the thing. I feel like there are some of you who are very much or very deeply entrenched into this materialistic physical world, which is fascinating to me because I'm getting a couple of things. Like I do feel like there's, how would you say? It's almost like there's a curiosity about certain spiritual events or perhaps maybe like clairvoyance or things like this, right? Like I feel like there's a curiosity, but I feel like it's coming from a very logical space or a very mind space, right? Like a very physical world, type of curiosity, like wanting to be able to explain it from this space. And that's not really how it works, right? It's not really how, you can't really get an understanding of spirituality or God or Christ or any of these sorts of things from a very materialistic physical place, right? Like we want to bring like physicality to it, and it's not something that you can necessarily do. And so I feel like what you can do to align with your highest timeline and Christ consciousness is to work on developing that relationship with God with Christ. And you may start by potentially, if you haven't already, because I feel like some of you maybe have, if you haven't already, researching or becoming knowledgeable or educated in things like esoteric Christianity, perhaps like anthroposophy, theosophy, or various other mythos or religions, because there is underlying truth, okay, and some religious teachings, like that there are underlying truths. And I feel like if you need to approach it from that space, okay, fine, right? That may help you to create some foundation and structure, which for whatever reason I feel like you may need that. Um, but just know, like, you can't fully approach it from that space. Okay, and I feel like creating that connection, perhaps through study, as well as, say, meditation, prayer, right? I feel like this is something that you are being asked to do in order to align with that highest timeline and Christ consciousness. Um, and it's interesting as well because I'm seeing this light body activation. So for me, in many cases, light is essentially truth, right? It's what is able to shed awareness on things that may be hidden or unknown, right? So for example, physical light, like actual light that you see with your eyes, right, exposes that which is hidden in the dark. Knowledge provides for us what was once unknown to us or in the dark, right? And I'm getting fear coming up here as well. So I feel like this is also something, right? Like light, truth, illuminates our fears, right? It shows them to us. And I feel like this is something that you're being asked to do, to address those things. And it's very interesting because, again, I feel like much of your being, and this is pure intuition here, but I feel like for some of you, much of your being is very, again, very focused in the material or physical world. And so there's not as much inner work being done to address these things from a spiritual perspective, from a soul perspective. Perhaps some of you even, I don't know, I would think that if you're here, you likely believe in the soul to some degree. But I feel like some of these things are being approached from, like I'm saying, like a very like outwardly world type of perspective. And I feel like turning inward and shedding light on these things is something that is going to be beneficial for you in aligning with your highest timeline from your soul perspective. Okay. And as far as Christ consciousness is concerned, uh, in order to align with that Christ impulse or Christ consciousness, you have to, have to, I cannot emphasize that enough. You have to be willing to be honest with yourself, truthful. Like healthy balance of a human being is standing in your soul's integrity, and addressing your healing, purifying your heart, as it were, of fearful types of energies, of stuff, of what the wounding, right, of anger, of greed, of the fears, right, your karmas. So that means addressing all of the things, right? That means atoning for, as Christianity would call it, your sins, right? That means you have to address all of the things. And that includes things that we may not be so comfortable with, right? So I feel like this is what you can do to align with your highest timeline and Christ consciousness. You also have here, let's see, Heart of Swords. Isn't that fascinating? Yes. All-encompassing love, unconditional acceptance, and serenity. So like I was saying, in order to align with Christ consciousness, you have to purify yourself, your heart. And also, part of that is being truthful, but another part of that is opening your heart, not only to others fully, okay? But to yourself as well, okay? Like moving from a space of love for others as well as yourself, which means being honest, okay? So I feel like here part of aligning with your highest timeline is looking at yourself with compassion, with understanding, with grace, and more specifically with love, right? Accepting and acknowledging the things that you have experienced or have done that may be unpleasant, that maybe aren't necessarily things that you are, say, proud of. Addressing your guilt, your shame, what may make you feel unworthy. Okay. Yes, things like that. I feel the need to read from the book for you for this card. Um, but I also want to say, like, Heart of Source is God, like, that's God. I actually was in a recent training where the trainer, which this training was in regards to angels, um, expressed that based on their experience, angels are the heartbeats of God. And I find that really fascinating because it's like that's what we are trying to reconnect with is essentially the heartbeat of God, and to feel that in our being. And so I find it really fascinating this is coming up. But let me find this book here so I can share with you. Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and read this message here for you. I'm actually going to read both the interpretation of the card and then the message from the card, okay? Please do remember to apply this to what you can do to align with your highest timeline and Christ consciousness. So it says here, the source of the universe is a gigantic heart. Its beats are angels and beings of light. It is what many call God. Its love that is beyond gender and dogma. It's the infinite experiencing infinity. It's all that is, was, and ever will be. It's love being love and expressing love. It's an energy that can be explained but never fully comprehended. It's where we have all come from and will all return. The strangest part of all is that we've never left, even though we are spiritual beings having a human experience and may feel that Source is separate from us. The truth is that we're always connected, even when we feel we're not. This gateway takes us not upward, but inward. It's the gateway that reminds us that through the stargate of our heart, we are connected to the heart of creation. Not only that, but we exist and express ourselves within that heart. Even though we may be on planet Earth and experiencing Earth as a planet within the Milky Way, all of this and more is actually being expressed by the heart of Source. The vastness of this divine love is inexplainable, but it's who we are. You are connecting directly with the heart of Source, the creator of life and love. You are blessed to receive this card, for it shows the cup of your heart is being filled with love until it overflows. The divine energy that is with you now is helping you to melt away any blockages so that you can be open to the love, acceptance, and appreciation that you deserve. You are being encouraged to view yourself in a loving way and give yourself permission to be loved. If you have been holding back for a while but are now ready to share the love you have within, this card lets you know it's safe to do so. You are loving, and lovable. Step forward, claim your worth, and enjoy a new level of spiritual openness. You are truly blessed. Right, so essentially it's fascinating because you have these two cards here, and together I feel what you can do to align with your highest timeline is to literally acknowledge God and reconnect with God and with love, both as a being of love and as a recipient of love, both as a co-creator, okay, or as a human on this planet, and as a child of God or of Source. So, I mean, here I feel like, God is essentially calling you back home to yourself and to it. So, what is helping you to evolve, Capricorn? You do have the king here in the upright or light attribute position. Enlightened, benevolent leadership, benefiting those in your charge. So, here's the thing about kings. Um, Kings are often rulers of kingdoms, which are very physical planes, right? So I just feel like that's an important fact to add in. Um, so it's interesting because I feel like to some degree or another, especially if you have a family, I here's the thing. I don't feel like you are not loving. Okay, I don't like I want to make that um clear and what's coming through here. I don't feel like you aren't loving, okay? But I feel like there is some aspect of this where you think of like a kingdom and a king where it's like, I must provide um, a certain level of support to my kingdom. Right. So whether this be a business for you or a family or maybe both or something like that, like I feel like you are, how would you say, like a very good leader, right? Like I feel like you're very focused, you are likely very driven and determined and probably very strategic and responsible and disciplined and persistent and all of these things. Right? And I feel like that is beneficial to you. It is helping you to evolve because it helps you to be focused. Okay? So I do feel like this is an aspect that is helping you to evolve, right? To really harness these things, to harness that focus, to harness that determination, that persistence, right? Um, but it's interesting, and maybe you have some Sagittarius in your chart, or if that's relevant for you, you may want to watch that reading. But very similarly, there's an energy here. So, though this is helping you to evolve, okay, I feel like there's an aspect of this, like if you could only now apply that inwardly, right? Because I do feel like, again, the part that's standing out to me the most here, and that's not to say that there aren't surely some of you listening who are, awakened, enlightened, perhaps more aware of yourself and benevolent. But I feel like there are some here, oh, well, and it's not to say that there aren't many who could be benefiting from that persistence, from that drive, from, being someone who is able to be very focused and be responsible and create results, as it were, because I do feel like that's likely very true. However, again, I feel like if you could just now turn this inward and bring some of this focus on yourself and to developing your heart space and those relationships on a deeper level, I feel like that would really skyrocket your evolution, right? And it's interesting because, and perhaps some would take this differently, um, but there's what appears to be behind this king here, and this is pure intuition. What appears to be the moon. Okay, and the only reason I'm saying that is because it has what appears to be like these little spirals that kind of look like craters to me, and then the stars behind him, and then it almost appears as if he's holding the sun, right? And so here, the way that I'm kind of seeing this is like the sun is that life force, right? So it's almost as it's that very masculine type of energy where it's very action driven. And so like the moon is a representation, you know, it's very a very emotional body. And here it's like the moon is up in the sky, right? Like that body, that part of yourself, I feel like is distant, if you will. And the sun or the masculine aspect is very close. So it feels like you are able to tap into that with ease. And the emotional body seems very distant. So I feel like this is something, again, like I was saying, if you're able to turn that same drive and that same persistence inward, I feel like it, again, it will really skyrocket your evolution. Super fascinating to me. I don't know that I've ever really looked that deeply. Um, at least not in this um, series of readings for this month. Like I don't know that I've dove that deeply into actually the cards intuitively. So that's really fascinating. So what else is helping you to evolve here? We do have the addict in the reverse or shadow attribute position. Compromises integrity and honesty, allows an addictive pattern to have authority over your inner spirit. Yeah. So, you know, what's interesting here is that for some of you, this could literally be like addictions. Okay. Just to clarify this a bit further, Capricorn, if you are unaware, you are represented in the tarot by the devil. And the devil is a representation of the material world, addictions, hedonism, these sorts of things. It's interesting too, because, you know, I picked up on that at the beginning of the reading. And this could most certainly be addictions to the material world, right? To acquiring things or money. It could also be, like I was saying, addiction. It could be addictions to substances or perhaps alcohol, work. You know, it really feels to me like it is um, a means of, to be quite honest, and maybe some of you will resonate with this, maybe some of you won't, but it seems to me like a means of avoiding emotions or avoiding the things that maybe are uncomfortable, right? Truths that are uncomfortable, which is fascinating because here's the thing, like it says here, compromises integrity and honesty. And, you know, you're from your soul standpoint, you like your job here is love. Your job here is to align with that Christ impulse to be of service to humanity and to move and act through love, to purify your heart, right? And so when I look at this, it's like addictions to even work, okay, can create this compromise of your integrity and of your honesty, right? Because it's like I'm not being honest with myself by facing the things that I need to inwardly. I'm looking out, but it is helping you to evolve. Should you allow it to? Should you see it in that way? Okay? Because even, and this is something that not a lot of people talk about, or maybe they just don't, at least in my experience, I haven't seen it. And I'm, you know, pretty, I see a lot of the spiritual community types of things on socials. And something I've noticed is that not many people want to talk about the fact that all of these challenges, these things that come up, even though they can be difficult, painful, traumatic, you know, add whatever fill in the blank you want to put there, they do help us to evolve because they show us what it is we need to overcome within ourselves, right? And so even though they may be unpleasant or, like I was saying, uncomfortable, they are things that show to us what we need to focus on. So they have value, right? But we've been programmed and taught that, oh, we need to just push those things aside, like we don't want to deal with those things, right? Like we would rather not sink into or experience or understand why maybe we're experiencing grief or sadness or hurt or rage or unworthiness or shame or guilt, and we often don't remedy these things. We often push them aside, or you know like we don't really do work on them, right? Instead we just live with our self-loathing, or we live with our anxiety and our fears, and they essentially control us. And so, when these things are brought to the surface, when these things are shown to us, it gives us an opportunity to recognize where we need to do work to evolve. So I do feel like these things are helping you to evolve because they're being shown to you, especially with this solar eclipse energy and this retrograde energy, because it's all very karmic. Right? And these two energies are going to kind of put pressure on these things that need our attention. Right? Which is interesting here because with the addict, there's what almost looks to be, and if it would, there we go, water here, right? Like trying to hold back water. And water is a representation within the elements of emotion, or with tarot and the elements, right? It's emotion, feelings, it's love, it's spirituality, it's relationships. And these are all things that we've been speaking on within your reading thus far. So, it's like, I'm doing all these things to hold all this stuff back. And it's like, okay, but you actually have to confront those things, right? Super fascinating. Okay, so what is limiting your evolution? We have the mediator here in the upright or light attribute position, right? So even though it's in the upright, please understand that this is something that is limiting your soul's evolution. It says, gift for negotiating fairness and strategy in personal and professional life. Respect for both sides of an argument. Right. So from a limiting standpoint, so here's the thing. I just want to say very clearly, it's fascinating to me because I almost feel like, how do I explain this in a way that is going to be understood? Because we have here like gift for negotiating fairness and strategy, both in personal and professional life. So here's the thing. If you are hyper focused on work, if that is where your addiction is, let's say, right? Like you being able to negotiate these things all the time and to be consistently working is going to limit your evolution, right? Because it takes it. How do I say this? Like, when do you have the time to be quiet? When do you have the time to hear your soul, to hear God, to hear your angels, to hear your guides, to hear your higher self trying to align you with your highest timeline and with Christ consciousness? The truth is you don't. And if you're always, let's say, excelling at these things, right, for the most part, and I'm not saying you haven't experienced, downfalls or roller coasters, lows or things like this. But if you are essentially, for the most part, kind of like always winning, then that, how do I say this? It's like you're not going to put as much focus on development of other areas. Does that make sense? Right? So if you have this gift for negotiating, and not only that, but if you have this gift, like, so not only a business, let's say, but if you have this gift for negotiating with your family, like, oh, I need to do this over here and take time away from the family here so that we can then do something else, or so that I can do this, or so I can do that, or, what have you. And you're in that space of negotiation. then you are not, it's, how do I say this? It's like you can talk your way out of what it is that you need to be responsible for within yourself. Like you can talk your way out of focusing on those things. Right? So let's say, for example, your relationships need work. That first starts within you, because as within, so without. If you have a shitty relationship with you, Capricorn, your relationships externally are not going to be that great. Or maybe a better example of this would be to say, if you have a shallow relationship with yourself, you're going to have shallow relationships externally, right? And so if you're able to negotiate your way, let's say, out of partaking in things that require you to be emotionally available and require you to be, or rather to have depth emotionally, then it's kind of that's going to be limiting you. Okay? Which, I mean, to be quite frank, and what I've discovered within these readings, Capricorn, is that many things have come through that are likely going to not want to be heard. So I'm once again fully prepared to be disliked or disagreed with. But, I feel like what's interesting is this, it's kind of like making a deal with the devil, right? It's kind of like that devil on your shoulder, like the angel saying, hey, you should spend time with these persons and develop these relationships and nurture them within your family, right? These relationships that require emotional depth. But the devil on your shoulder is like, oh, but you should build your business because money's important. You know what I'm saying? And so you're like, oh yeah, you're probably right, over here on my shoulder, devil. You know? And that's not to say that some level of materialization or being in the material world isn't required, because it is, because we are human beings on this planet, but you are also a soul, so there's this need for balance. Right? You don't want to be too far up in the spiritual, and have, say, your head in the clouds, for example, but you don't want to be so grounded and so on this material plane that you are failing to grow spiritually. Either kind of defeats the purpose of being here. Neither will let you evolve truly. Right? So balance is required. So that's what I'm getting here, right? And it's interesting because you have this person who's kind of shaking hands with both sides, trying to get their way. It's super fascinating to me. But as always, take it as it resonates with you. Okay. All right, so let's take a look at some advice, encouragement, or guidance. You do have several cards here. So let's see. We have, oh my gosh, you cannot make this up, Capricorn. You have here Archangel Chamuel. Open your heart. Right? And what I've learned recently about Chamuel is that it is the bringer of love. This angel is the bringer of love. This is your first card out. Like, you have Heart of Source here. Like, a vast majority of what's come through in this reading for you is opening your heart to love. Thank you, Chamuel, for removing the barriers around my heart. So, I feel like it kind of goes without saying, but the advice that you're getting here is to allow yourself to experience this, both for yourself and with others. Release the fears. Release the fears. Right? Which, I mean, this could be a multitude of different fears that you have. For whatever reason, the words like guilt and shame are coming to the forefront of my mind. So whatever that may mean to you, if it does resonate with you. But definitely there's like that fearful energy. And there's also, I'm also getting like maybe anywhere you've been, say, miserly or rigid, savage. These are terms that are just dropping into my head currently. Right? Like anywhere you've been kind of like that, I would say open your heart to yourself. Allow yourself to, consider why you may have been in that way of being, or what planted you there, and work to move through those things, to understand them better, to navigate them, to alchemize them, and release them. You also have here, live your joy. Thank you, angels, for supporting me as I follow my joy. Yeah, and you know what's interesting about this, I just want to say, and this, I'm not saying that you don't do things that you enjoy, Capricorn, okay? But what I am saying is there's a difference between doing things that you enjoy from a physical space, and there's a difference between doing things like truly like living joy, like breathing in life and finding joy in breathing, embodying joy. Okay. And I feel like just based on my own experience, like one of the things that for me brings through my being the most joy is love, is experiencing love, not only through myself and through God, right? But through my relationships with other people, which I mean, I can literally count on one hand the relationships that I have currently in my life, but they bring me so much joy that the lack of others doesn't matter. At least not as much as that, at least not as much as that I thought it would previously. Okay. So I don't, this isn't so much this live your joy. I feel for you, Capricorn, isn't so much about finding things outside of yourself to be that create joy for you, right? It's not so much this external things create joy inside. It's more creating joy within and that overflowing into your external world, right? So in order to do that, I feel you have to align with who you are truly at your soul, right? And I will say through my own experience, there is, and as much as I love, say, my children and the people that I do have in my life, nothing brings me greater joy than experiencing God within. So, I mean, take that however you want it. Again, it's not from a dogmatic religion space, but that feeling of God within is something that is, it can't be compared. It truly can't. The joy just wells up within you, and it really, really does have a tremendous impact on your entire experience, both in that moment and outwardly, like as you move forward in your experience, as you look back, right, in the present moment, like it's truly is remarkable. So, ooh, I just gnashed my teeth together too. I feel like some of you, like, this is, I don't know, for whatever reason, I feel like you have trouble with this. I don't know what this is for. Let's see what else you have here. Take time to breathe. Yeah, thank you, angels. I breathe with ease, knowing you're here. So again, you know, here's the thing. When you put all of your eggs, let's say, in the physical world or material world basket, the problem with that is that you feel the need to constantly be minding it, right? You have very little faith in, say, God to provide for you the resources that you need. And now I'm not saying that this means you sitting at home on your sofa waiting for God to just throw things in your lap. No, you know, or that all the answers are just going to be there. What I mean by that is, you know, faith is essentially when you wake up in the morning and you put your feet over the side of your bed. Faith is expecting the floor to be there. So the way that I look at this is, you know, if you have faith in God, God will bring through you to you in some way, shape, or form calls to action. This could be through your own intuition, your own internal knowing, you know, your connection with your higher self, or this could be brought to you through, say, other people, maybe by a phone call or by something in the post or by a friend or, you know, someone contacting you or you bumping into somebody or something of that nature. right? Through which, if you are connected with yourself, you take action on those things, of course, using your discernment and, maybe asking for confirmation or, taking it back to God. But here's the thing, like faith without works is dead. So I feel like there's a misconception and people look at God as kind of woo woo because people have this belief that, oh, if you believe in God, you can just, kind of sit on your couch and God will just take care of the rest. And that's not necessarily true. It means that you have faith that as you move forward, God will provide for you a way to help you survive, to help you to live and thrive, right? Which this gives you peace. It gives you the ability to breathe a little bit more easily because you aren't taking on the entire world and everything upon your own, dare I say, little shoulders. Right? Like you carry things when you are moving from a strictly material space, you carry things that you're not meant to be carrying, which weighs you down, which means you're constantly working, you're constantly worried about, are the eggs okay? Are all the eggs still in the basket? What do I need to do to make sure that the eggs stay safe? Right? And that can look like a multitude of different things. So, like I said, like being addicted to work and constantly working because you feel like you can't stop, because you feel like you are your only support system, which is not true. But if that's how you want to live your life, I mean, we have free will. And the fact of the matter is like in this space where we are now currently, we are co-creators of our reality and we have everything within us. And if you want to believe and live a lie, you have the ability to do that. It's your choice. Right? So essentially what happens when you do that, you're like, okay, I'm taking it all on myself. Your angels and everybody's like, all right, man, like you don't have to do that, but if you want to, like that is your choice. You have the free will to be able to make that decision. And so I think it's fascinating to me because, you have first out here Archangel Chamuel who says, open your heart up. I am bringing you the opportunity to bring love into your heart, into your life through God, through others, through yourself, right? Which thus can create tremendous joy within you and allow you to relax a little bit, to breathe, right? So this is I mean, yeah, of course it's your choice, right? It's your choice. But I do feel, right, because the topic of work has come up again and again and again, right? I feel like a big part of this is also that you do need to have the ability or opportunity to breathe, right? Because I feel like some of you will work yourself into the ground and you will keep working and keep working and keep working and keep working to your detriment. And I want to lovingly say, you are not just your physical body. You are a soul here. That your physical body is a vessel. It is. This is why you hear in previous times and even now, your body is a temple. Why? Because you're carrying your soul within it. That's why it's a temple, right? And so if you exhaust your physical body, you're essentially breaking down the temple that carries your soul, right? So you have to have that balance of caring for both. You have here study and learning. Isn't that fascinating? Thank you, angels, for allowing me to see that every day is a learning day. Yeah. I was saying earlier, you may, if you need to have some sort of structure, which is most certainly beneficial, you can start by educating yourself on, like I was saying, things like esoteric Christianity or anthroposophy, theosophy, these sorts of things. You could also look into, say, Eastern traditions, if you wish, right? But you like, I feel like this is something saying here, like, how would you say, all of this is an opportunity, right? Like, not only could you study, right, like past adepts, or great spiritual teachers who have kind of, how would we say, unfolded or brought to the surface these teachings of how to be a soul, essentially living in this body. But you could also see that the things that you experience are in every single moment teaching you something, that you can learn from every single experience. And I mean that fully, every single experience. So, if a business deal doesn't go the way that you want, if a relationship starts to deteriorate, if you are, finding that your body is in a state of dis-ease. Now, I'm not a doctor. I do not give medical advice. I am just a girl on YouTube. But if you hold energies in your body and you're not taking care of your soul, that can manifest in your physical body, because your soul is trying to tell you, hey, there is an imbalance of energies here that needs your attention, right? So all of these things are tools for you to be able to adjust accordingly, for you to be able to learn from them, because Earth is a school. And it's one of the hardest schools, most challenging schools there is. You also have here trustworthy friends. Thank you, angels, for surrounding me with people I can trust and love. So here's the thing, Capricorn. Some of the reasons why maybe some of you are or struggle to allow this love in, to create these very deep relationships, whether they be with romantic partners, friends, family, etc., your children perhaps, right, or your circle, is because I feel like there's some aspect where you feel like you can't trust people, right, and or love people. And I want to lovingly say to you that if you feel you can't trust others, it's because you can't trust yourself. If you feel like you cannot love others, it's because you cannot love yourself, right? Or you do not love yourself, because we can only experience our external world at the depth which we experience ourselves. We can only understand the external world to the depth at which we understand ourselves. So if you are someone's like, I can't trust people, it's because you don't trust you, right? If you're like, I struggle to love people, it's because you struggle to love yourself, right? And this is one of those things where I was saying, if you can apply the same determination, the same responsibility, the same drive, and the same patience, the same discipline as you do to your external world, and turn that inward, it will likely skyrocket your soul's evolution, right? Because you are then going to learn how to love you. You're going to learn how to trust you. But these are things that take practice and time, dedication, which you have all of the, how would you say, the pieces for, right? Like you have the recipe for that, the ingredients, but you just have to turn it inward. So, this is fascinating to me. Super fascinating to me. And I pray that it is helpful for you, Capricorn, as you move forward. I would like to thank you so very much for joining me. I truly do appreciate your time, your energy, your attention, and of course, your company. Pardon me. It's been an absolute pleasure to read for you. I pray that you are able to release your fears, to allow love in, and to allow yourself to give love as you work through healing, as you work through ascending and aligning with your highest timeline, to evolve within your soul, within your being. If there was something in this reading that resonated for you, please do the YouTube things by liking, sharing, commenting below, or subscribing to the channel. It really does help me to grow. It tells YouTube that there may be something here for someone else that's valuable, and I really do appreciate you doing that, so thank you very much. Again, I pray this is helpful for you. Take care of your beautiful, magnificent soul. Peace be with you and within you, and I hope to see you on the next one. Bye.